Welcome to the NIT season tip-off as part of Feast Week presented by Lowe's. First of two tonight from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. We've got a great one. Undefeated Louisville, 5th ranked and undefeated Tennessee. Later tonight, Marquette takes on number 2 Kansas. And we walk in courtside. Tom Hart alongside Brooklyn's own Fran Fraschilla. It is Thanksgiving week. We get to see great teams and a great player. Grant Williams, not only the reigning SEC Player of the Year, but this is a guy who does it on the court and off. He's easy to root for.
He really is. And we used to call guys like him tweeners. Now we just call them ballers. This guy may only be 6'5" or 6'6", but he dominated the SEC a year ago, scoring mainly in the paint, but he's stretching his game to the outside as well. And you are absolutely right. Outstanding student who chose Tennessee over Harvard and Yale.
Tennessee, a team that gets it done on both ends of the floor, too. One of the best defensive teams in college basketball. Meanwhile, Louisville has hit the reset button on their basketball program in just about every way, and it's an opportunity for Chris Mack to mold this team under his own image.
Well, he had great success at Xavier, and he didn't have to travel far. The recruiting geography is basically the same, and by the way, they have a tremendous class coming in next season.
A top 10 class likely by the time all is said and done. Number 1 right now. He was a Skip Froster disciple at both Wake and Xavier, then the head coach with the Musketeers. 8 NCAA tournaments over 9 years, including each of the last 5, and a number 1 seed for Xavier last season. 100 miles down the road to Louisville, taking over a program that was run by David Padgett last year, and they went 22-14 and middle of the pack of the ACC. Tip control by Christian Cunningham, and Louisville transfer point guard from Samford.
Lots of 4-out, lots of pick and roll, and Stephen Enoch, the UConn transfer, is off to a good start to his career.
And he gets an early touch, but too strong as his shot was challenged by Admiral Schofield. Throwback unis for Tennessee, but a consistent starting 5. Jordan Bowen will run the point. Grant Williams and Kyle Alexander inside. And Admiral Schofield misses with his first jumper.
Both of these teams practice toughness. Both have said rebounding, inside play key tonight.
3-ball goes for Dwayne Sutton.
That is his second 3 of the season only.
This is a Tennessee team with tons of experience. SEC co-champs with Auburn last year. A lot of these guys were playing considerable minutes as a freshman 3 years ago. Cunningham on the way out. His is rejected. Bowden with the block there. Here's Kyle Alexander, 6'11" with a touch. They double down on him. And it's saved on the baseline by the Cards.
Could have been a foul call over the back. They played it on.
Cards had numbers for a moment, and then an offensive foul on Louisville and Stephen Enoch. Rick Barnes, in his 32nd season as a Division I head coach, with a win tonight, he will pass John Wooden on the all-time wins list.
It's amazing. Tied for 26 right now. That's a lot of wins. Started his career at George Mason. Since then has taken 4 different programs to the NCAAs.
Beautiful feed to Grant Williams on the pass from Jordan Bowen.
Tom, you and I have seen Tennessee early this year. I spent 2 days with Tennessee, and the guy that really impressed me in the improvement was Jordan Bowen. Point guard, athlete, great speed, becoming an even better passer and playmaker.
Last year, he had one of the best assist-to-turnover ratios in Tennessee program history. Shot clock at 10. Cunningham with the dish. And a long jumper from V.J. King is off the mark. One big change for Louisville under head coach Chris Mack. A change in defensive styles, and Bowen blows right by him.
Well, that's that speed we talked about. And that's something I think he's learning to harness.
Louisville, through its first 3 games, is scoring nearly 92 points a game. Their success at getting to the free throw line is the secret. Here's VJ King, and he misses another jumper. Cards have started this game 1 for 5.
They'll try to front Grant Williams in the post, but you can't do that.
4 early for the Tennessee big guy.
He spun off the pressure of Sutton. Sutton got caught on the top side.
King into the paint. And he's able to draw a foul, and he'll have 2 shots coming.
This is how you play undersized at 6'6". Great pass inside, good seal move, and then watch this spin move. He locates middle, and he sees that Sutton is on the top side, so the spin is there baseline, and that is a quick move by the junior from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Here's VJ King at the free throw line, lone returning starter for this Louisville program. Fran, they lost about 2/3 of their offensive production from last year's team.
And Ray Spalding off to the NBA, Dallas Mavericks. He's up and down, G League and the big club. I thought David Padgett did a really solid job last year. Had a chance to watch Louisville a number of different times and in the NIT. And the former Louisville Cardinal kept that program together. And as you mentioned, ended up with another 20-win season, which is pretty much a common occurrence in Louisville.
They're one of 4 programs in the country to have 16 straight 20-win seasons. Baseline jumper goes. Tennessee red hot from the floor. Bone makes his, and Tennessee has made 4 out of 5 to start this game.
Yeah, Tom, in a league with really good point guards. Jared Harper, the kids at Kentucky, Darius Garland at Vanderbilt. I love Jordan Bone. He's playing at an all-SEC level this season.
Darius Perry hits a contested 3. Coming off of a career-high 17 against Vermont when he hit a pair of 3s. Schofield able to fit it inside to John Fulkerson. Fulkerson broke his nose last time out for Tennessee in the game against Georgia Tech, playing with a mask. Sutton picks up the loose ball and fires, and Louisville hits another from deep.
How about that? Dwayne Sutton was 1 for 5 behind the arc coming into tonight.
And now taken away by Darius Perry. Transition 3, King. And crashing the glass hard is Malik Williams. Bone able to hesitate and take it off the window.
Right now, he's really hard to guard. He's having his way with Cunningham.
Schofield got lost defensively. VJ King with his first field goal. Louisville back in front. Tennessee 6 of 7 from the floor. 5 of those buckets have come in the paint. Into Fulkerson and a reach by Malik Williams. We're going to go back in time and we're going to talk about a little bit New York basketball history. I have an expert sitting right next to me. You'll learn more about New York's top volunteer right after this.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Lowe's. Hurry in today for huge Black Friday savings and the long-lasting power of Energizer. Still going.
A little bit of history for you. That's where Bernard King grew up, the former Tennessee standout, and 50 steps from his building, go figure, was a basketball court.
Well, he got to Tennessee, and he is the all-time greatest player to ever play there. The guy on the right is Ernie Grunfeld, the Bernie and Ernie show in the mid-'70s. Bernard was a fabulous player. He got to Tennessee because anybody who knows New York City basketball knows the name Tom Konchalski, the glider, the scouting guru, maybe the greatest ever. And Tom was very close to the Tennessee coaching staff. Ray Mears, Stu Aberdeen, and Tennessee came into New York And there were so many Division I players back then, Tom. And Bernie and Ernie ended up at Tennessee, and they made history in the mid-'70s. Two great players, and of course Ernie Grunfeld now in charge of the Washington Wizards.
And they changed the history of the Tennessee basketball program. These jerseys they're wearing tonight aren't from that era, but they're very similar to the uniforms that those guys wore. And you played with Albert King, with Bernard's little brother.
I was a senior when Albert was a sophomore, and in that same league was a guy named Orlando Blackman, who had a pretty good NBA career, and some guy named the Microwave. Benny Johnson, who was the ultimate undersized four-man in high school, ended up being a great player in the NBA with the Pistons.
Admiral Schofield hits a three coming out of the timeout for Tennessee. Here's Malik Williams. Left it short. Louisville's gotten its hands on some offensive boards, but couldn't take advantage of that one.
And by the way, Tom, that's vintage Chris Mack basketball right now. Both coaches said today that this is going to be about toughness in the paint, and we've seen it early.
Yves Pons has entered the game for Tennessee. And Lamonte Turner is on the floor for the first time this season for the Vols, last year's SEC Sixth Man of the Year. Deep three for Jordan Nwora. He just entered, and he knocks down his first touch.
Well, Jordan Nwora is really a starter, but they just wanted to send him a message about getting a little tougher, play some defense, but he can shoot the basketball.
John Fulkerson banging inside.
You know, you were mentioning that mask that he's wearing after the broken nose at Georgia Tech, and Rick Barnes said at practice yesterday, he told John Fulkerson, he said, Jerry West broke his nose 40 times and never wore a mask. And Fulkerson's reply, who's Jerry West?
I talked to him about it after practice today, and he insisted after the fact that he knew who Jerry West was.
Yeah, Rick Barnes said,
I mean, it was only on every backboard in the Nets practice facility, right? The
exactly,
logo?
the logo.
It's the second mask they've gone through for Fulkerson, trying to find one that fits him better. Pons dumps it into Grant Williams. And Williams just powers his way to the bucket.
He's amazing. You mentioned SEC Player of the Year last year, in a year where Tennessee was picked at the bottom of the preseason rankings, and of course won the regular season title, tied with Auburn, but what a player. Great student, very thoughtful, great to talk to, isn't he?
Oh, fantastic. Knocks down the free throw. Tennessee is 9 of 10 from the floor to start this game. Grant Williams was one of 5 Division I players on his high school team his senior year out of Charlotte Providence Day. Devin Dotson was another. We'll see him at point for Kansas in game 2. Open floor foul on Lamonte Turner, who's back from a shoulder injury. It's a first on Turner. Second team foul on Tennessee. Vols lead by 4. We'll talk a little bit about how Louisville's going to look different defensively this year under Chris Mack. How are they going to look different offensively in Mack's first season?
Lots of pick and rolls, a lot of spread court, but they're also going to bang the glass. It's something that was a trademark of Xavier. I know we keep mentioning the word toughness, but it's something when you talk to coaches about Chris Mack's teams that always comes up.
Quan 4 from the corner, off the mark. Ryan McMahon now running the point for Louisville after entering off the bench. Turner to the right hand, blocked inside by Malik Williams. McMahon with the lob. And Williams will go to the line. No surprise, Louisville gets 36% of its points from the free throw line. And here they're playing defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Last year, Malik Williams, a little bit of a conscientious objector inside. He wanted to shoot the jump shot, but the effort is there. And that's a good sign if you're Chris Mack and the Cards.
Well, what do you need to know about SEC Player of the Year Grant Williams? The junior from Charlotte plays the piano, drums, violin, and clarinet, among other instruments. His mom is an electrical engineer for NASA. He was at one point a nationally ranked chess player. He will graduate early this May. He went to Ecuador with the Vol Leaders Academy. There's nothing he can't do, and that includes auto mechanic work. Before the Tennessee-Missouri football game, some tailgaters got a flat tire, so they flagged down John Fulkerson and Grant Williams for a little help. Now, Grant fully admits that Fulkerson is the one that knew how to work the jack, but Grant knew how to change a tire, so they teamed up. They got the motorists back on their way. Lo and behold, the Tennessee fans were happy with Grant Williams for more than just one reason.
Isn't it amazing how a kid endears himself to an entire university family, all the great supporters of Vol Athletics, and of course in a year where Jeremy Pruitt and his coaching staff, football program, trying to get it off the ground. What a run it's been for Rick Barnes to come to Tennessee.
It's funny you mention that because he did an interview with Andy Katz on his podcast a couple days ago. And when Andy Katz asked Grant what he appreciates the most about being in Knoxville, the University of Tennessee, he talked about the football program trying to get to a bowl. He talked about the women's soccer program making it to the Elite Eight. And very rarely, with all due respect, are guys who are student athletes so they have the time to focus on what the other programs are doing.
You're exactly right, and that's what endears him. There's a good seal inside. Look at that. Oh, man, he made Malik Williams disappear, and that's why Jordan Bone had such a great opportunity to drop it in there. When you get that defender on your back, the passer's got to not be able to see. Take a look. You can't even see Malik Williams, and he's 6'11", because Grant Williams buried him with 2 feet in the lane.
So Williams to the free throw line.
Yeah, I found it interesting that one of his favorite players is Adrian Dantley, who's an old school, undersized power forward. And the similarities, are there. Adrian Dantley had a long NBA career. Yeah. AD was about 6'6", same size.
They list Grant Williams as 6'7". That might be a stretch.
Well, he's listed in the program as 6'7", but, I'm someone that judges height well, given my stature.
I thought you were height blind. Louisville misses the 3. Tennessee leads by 4. See if they pound it inside again. Here's Admiral Schofield. Transition 3. It'll stay this way with Tennessee. Here's a look at the battle for Atlantis bracket. The Bad Boy Mowers battle for Atlantis. Wisconsin knocked off Stanford today 62-46. The Badgers made just 1 3 and they only had 2 assists. When was the last time that happened?
That's crazy. Yep, and of course they have a guy that doesn't make any threes, Ethan Happ, who is going to end up being one of the most prolific players in Big Ten history statistically.
We have some fantastic basketball going on right now. And this building has seen plenty of basketball, right? You were here this afternoon. Pitt knocked off St. Louis.
Jeff Capel's Pitt Panthers are 6-0. What a
Undefeated.
good win today. Yep. Now, in fairness, they hadn't played anybody who'd really challenged them at home. But that was a really good win. They start 3 freshmen, the Panthers. And given what their football team is doing, you got to like what's going on in the Steel City right now.
Jump ball off of that play. So that makes what, 7 games? 2, 4, 6. How many games have you seen in this building within the last week?
Oh man, well, don't forget the Garden last week. I'm going to see. You ready for this? 48 Division I teams this month.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I had a chance to see Pitt St. Louis today. It was either go to my hotel or watch the game. I was here.
Hotel rooms were small anyway. Grant Williams, right. Another trip to the line.
Dominating.
He is one of the best in the country at drawing fouls. He draws better than 10 fouls per 40 minutes, and you're seeing how that results in Tennessee getting to the line.
And practically, you know what that means? He's fouling out basically 2 guys a game, if you really think about it that way. You are watching in the first 10 minutes of this game why this kid is such a great player.
Knocks down another free throw. It's his 3rd old school 3-point play in this game, and we're not even 10 minutes into it. Darius Perry. Here's Quan 4. Tennessee 15th in the country in holding the opposition to just 53% shooting. And they'll get Kyle Alexander for a trip out front. That's his first.
Watch this. Watch where Grant Williams starts right here, okay? He's going to start on the right side, right wing, and he's going to set a screen. Watch him come all the way across the lane. He's going to get 2 screens, 1, 2, and he's going to get the ball deep. Now, that's an old Gary Williams play that Rick Barnes certainly picked up on because he is a former Gary Williams disciple.
Was with them at Ohio State. McMahon throws in his first triple. He's hit 5 of 11 from deep this season. Good hands by Grant Williams, and a challenge shot ripped down by Jordan Wara. Okoye Agau backing his way in on Grant Williams, and one coming. A taste of his own medicine.
That's a guy with a lot of stamps on that passport.
Yep.
Out of Omaha, started at Louisville, transferred to Georgetown. I saw him last year at SMU. Next thing I noticed, he's back home. And I asked him today, PhD, he said, I'm getting close. Because he's got the 6th year.
A rare 6-year of eligibility.
Yeah.
He speaks Dinka, Arabic, and English. Look at where he's been. Louisville, then Georgetown, SMU, back to Louisville.
He was a delightful kid. I talked to him last year because I live about a mile from SMU, and I said, he actually called me a couple times to figure out what his potential to play overseas was. Next thing I know, he gets a 6th-year waiver from the NCAA, and he's back right where he started.
Jordan Bone off the mark. Rebounded by Agau. He's born in South Sudan, then moved to Egypt as a child, and then stateside. Open floor jam. That one belongs to Wara, and Louisville comes roaring back to take a lead.
Let's see if they can tighten up that half-court defense now.
Cards on an 8-0 run. Here's Wara again, and he turned it over. Chris Mack's team, patient defensively, they'll run on offense.
No, exactly right. Good rebound, rip and go. And that's a great up-the-court look by Perry, who gets it started. McMahon a war at the other end. 4 guys touched that ball. Once Agau grabbed that rebound.
So under Rick Pitino, this was a very frenetic defense. Whether it was matchup or man, they played the passing lanes. They got after you. They took chances. Pack line defense is something different altogether for Louisville.
Absolutely. They pack it in inside an imaginary 17-foot arc, which they use on their practice floor. Now, they haven't been real effective in the half-court defensively so far because the ball has gotten deep. But it is a change. It's been wildly successful. Chris Mack worked under Sean Miller at Xavier. Sean Miller worked with Stan Van Gundy at Wisconsin. And I believe that it was introduced to Stan Van Gundy by Dick Bennett when Dick was coaching at Wisconsin Green Bay and then later the head coach at Wisconsin. But it's one of those defenses that takes away penetration. And theoretically, Tom, it should take away inside play. But that hasn't really been the case so far because Grant Williams has dominated the low post.
What's interesting, though, is if you compare it to what Tony Bennett is doing at Virginia from an overall tempo standpoint, is Louisville wants to play pack line defense and therefore slow a lot of teams down as McMahon hits another 3, but they want to be up-tempo on the other end.
Easy to do. It's just a matter of your offensive style, but the defensive philosophy is very similar.
Schofield rises and knocks down a 3. Tennessee back to within a point.
And this guy with the ball has really matured as a sophomore, Perry. In fact, the coaching staff, you ready for this comparison? Defensively, they compare him to Javon Carter, former West Virginia star. But offensively, he's much more under control this year.
Ball fake, Wara 3. Offensive board slapped away. Louisville holds on to it. And Wara turns it over. For Louisville, their 5th turnover of the game, but they're hot from behind the arc. When we return, we'll get a taste of Feast Week. We'll take you back to the studio for an update on what's going on with Duke and Gonzaga in Maui. That's after this.
From matchup press and matchup zone to man-to-man, pack line, big adjustment, Franny. What do you think?
Big adjustment so far, Seth. Louisville's been more impressive on the offensive end. Up-tempo's been terrific.
Tonight over on ESPN, we've got a Thanksgiving Eve NBA doubleheader. First, the Lakers square off with the Cavs, and then the Warriors host the Thunder. Coverage begins with NBA Countdown at 7 Eastern. You can always watch both live on the ESPN app from anywhere. Shouldn't Seth know better than to interrupt a promo?
He should know better.
But he doesn't. That's the point. He doesn't.
You know what? Seth has been in that studio 21 hours a day since last week.
Are they breaking rocks in there, or are they talking TV?
He's wearing out the cafeteria staff. I know that.
Here's Grant Williams. He's been wearing out Louisville, especially in the paint. He's got 15 here in the first half.
We got to get an ancestry report on this guy. I mean, how did he's been that good?
Not where I expected it to go.
I had somebody just tweet me and say, hey, what's with all the love for Grant Williams? Next, we're going to get an ancestry report. We're working on that right now,
as soon as you spit in a cup and send it away, we'll know.
Get a little
Dwayne
DNA
Sutton
there.
with his third three.
Yeah, and you know, seriously, see all this? Now, we've been impressed with Louisville on the offensive end, but Tennessee, we talk about pack line defense, it's nowhere near where Chris Mack wants it right now, because the ball is going into the paint like it's a sieve, and he knows that.
Challenge shot, no whistle. Contact made, but everybody was straight up, according to Joe Lindsay. And Tennessee on the other end will keep possession.
And you watch this last bucket. The pack line is supposed to take away penetration, and you see that ball right there. Nobody rotates over. And the idea of the pack line is pressure the ball. The other four defenders play on a 17-foot arc. So you're really trying to take away the paint and penetration. And Cards have looked really good offensively, but not so much defensively. And you can say the same thing for Tennessee defensively.
Grant Williams off the mark, rebounded by V.J. King. Louisville coming off of an 8-point win at home against Vermont.
We know how good Vermont is, don't we? What an impressive performance at Kansas.
It was the Cards' 146th consecutive win when scoring more than 85 points. Dwayne Sutton for three. And rebounded by Admiral Schofield. Williams got it deep, shares it with Fulkerson, and that'll be a blocking foul on Akoy Agau. It's his second.
One thing Rick Barnes told us today that he's really impressed with, both Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield can really pass the ball. You remember at practice today, they worked on the double team and finding the open man. If you can get a post player to catch and look middle and see the double team, he also locates the other 7 players on the floor, and they've been really good at finding the open man off those doubles. Much like a quarterback in football picking up a blitz.
John Fulkerson has another free throw coming his way. Jordan Wara will return. V.J. King takes a seat. Speaking of great passing big men, Dedrick Lawson will be on the floor for Kansas, the Memphis transfer. They have game 2 tonight against Marquette, the second-ranked team in the country.
I'm going to guess that Bill Self throws the ball inside early tonight.
You think?
Yes, to Azubuike. How'd I do?
Yeah, it was pretty good. We've got an hour and a half.
Azubuike. I have to work on it. Holly Rowe told me I have to perfect that.
Admiral Schofield out front.
Watch him. He's going to look middle. He's taking a look.
And he walked with it. So a Tennessee turnover. It's their 5th of the game.
He's an equally impressive guy to talk to as is Grant Williams. 2 guys that are extremely popular on that Tennessee campus. What great facilities they have. The Tennessee locker room is as good as I've seen. They've got video games. I learned how to play golf about a month ago with Rick Barnes.
On the simulator?
Yeah, the simulator golf. They've got one in their locker room.
No wonder Rick Barnes has his office in the practice facility instead of
in
the athletic department building.
He did that at Texas. He had this beautiful palatial office in the University of Texas football stadium, and he spent all his time in the practice facility, and he wants to be close to his guys. I had the good fortune of working for this guy for 3 years at Providence, and he's come a long way as a coach. He really has. He's had an incredible career.
Fulkerson gets fouled on the drive. That will be on Wara, or pardon me. It's on Dwayne Sutton. That's his second.
Yeah, Rick Barnes, just a terrific guy. You know, Dickie Simpkins, who we helped coach at Providence College, he was the AAU coach. As you see, Rick Barnes is going to catch his mentor, one of his mentors, Gary Williams, here shortly. Dickie Simpkins and Rick Barnes had a little bit of a frosty relationship after he played at Providence. It took a while to
When you
patch
don't
things
talk
up.
for 10 years, it's more than frosty.
Yeah, it's okay. Arctic.
Yes, yeah.
And they patched it up, and they're close today. And Dickie Scout's in the NBA, and he's a tremendous guy. But with Admiral Schofield, when they went through the coaching change, good pass right there. And Donnie Tyndall was let go. Schofield had committed to Tennessee. Dickie Simpkins said, "You need to play for this man." And Admiral Schofield has had a great career. Now this is good basketball. This is old school Chris Mack, Louisville basketball. Watch this slip. Come act like you're setting the screen, but it's really what we call a ghost screen, an invisible screen. Look, doesn't even get anybody. Rolls to the basket, and Fulkerson gets caught watching that paint dry.
We have clock issues here. It stopped for no reason. 5:13 left here in the first half. What a game this has been. Back and forth. Louisville has hit big threes to close the gap. They're 7 for 14 from 3. And over their first 3 games, and I understand that the competition was not quite at this level, but they had really made their living at the free throw line. Maybe a better shooting team than they showed early in the season.
It's amazing. 42 free throw attempts a game, and that's #1 in the country in terms of their percentage of free throw attempts to field goal attempts. And this guy, Chris Mack, what a job he's doing. He's got people in Louisville excited. He's accessible. He shows up at Roosters. Everybody goes crazy. He's got a terrific recruiting class coming in.
An incredible recruiting class.
Yeah.
And I think once you put it in context of what this program has been through, and you know how harsh it can be in the recruiting world. You look at the clock issue, and we'll get it timed up perfectly. To consider the fact that right now they have the #1 recruiting class in the country. More signees are going to come in for other schools. They'll probably end up in the top 10. That is really, really impressive.
Yeah, it really is. It just shows you the confidence these kids have in what's in the Louisville future. You know, I had spent a lot of time in that city. Did some NIT games last year, and incredible arena, maybe the best arena in college basketball, certainly in the top 3. Great tradition, great fan base, and a no-brainer for Chris. It's also his wife's hometown, so he's very comfortable in that city, and I think he, more than anybody who they were talking to, knows about the incredible tradition that this program has had through the years.
They had a great turnout for their Cards Live downtown Louisville on a Friday night football weekend to get everybody fired up about the team. They'd never done it before. And they had like almost 8,000 people to come out and see a basketball court that had been thrown up in the street with a dunk contest, three-point contest. And Chris Mack, I think he appeals to people because he's a real guy. He's
absolutely.
a real, genuine person.
Well, you know what? Listen, we know Rick Pitino is a great basketball coach and did a great job at Louisville. And then obviously the NCAA issues, some of the off-the-court stuff. But, you know, to many, Rick was that guy that was up in that palace that you wouldn't see much around town or interact with him. And John Calipari is a guy that knows the Commonwealth better than anybody and has that personality to touch Wildcat fans. Well, that's what Chris Mack is doing. Different way of doing it than the Hall of Famer Rick Pitino. Two great coaches, but Chris Mack certainly off to a great start.
One thing I loved about their shoot-around this morning is the entire team, having bought in, would repeat every call. So there's 5 guys on the floor, and there's another 9 guys standing on the baseline. Schofield for 3. And he gets another one. It's a third triple for Admiral Schofield. But if Chris Mack said, let's run zipper, the point guard would say zipper, and everybody on the baseline would repeat zipper.
Culture. It's culture. It's how we're going to do it every single day, every minute of the day. And here's what we're going to do to build a winning program.
21 of the Cards' 35 points to start this game have come from deep. Meanwhile, 22 of Tennessee's 39 have come in the paint. Enoch fouled by Fulkerson. It's a first on John Fulkerson.
The Louisville staff loves this young man, Stephen Enoch, the Connecticut native and transfer from UConn, who really didn't get much time. Think about it. He was backing up Amita Breimer. Oh, there, sneaky. Can't do that. You got to see ball and man.
Jordan Bone with his first.
He fell for it. Take a watch. Take a look. Jordan Bone not paying attention. And Darius Perry's going to get a couple free throws.
Perry, sophomore out of Marietta, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta.
He's not going to shoot 74% from the field this year, but he is a much different player than a year ago. I loved his energy. I loved his defense. Last year he was like a punt returner. He'd run a couple back. He'd fumble a couple.
Yeah.
But high energy, and again, a compliment when you're compared defensively to Javon Carter.
I've got a motto for him of what his coaches want. Do simple better.
Yeah.
Do simple better.
Hit singles and doubles.
Yeah.
Yep. Don't swing for the fences.
Grant Williams went down, takes a look at the official on the baseline, didn't get the call. Bone trying to shake, and a baseline drive turns into an offensive foul. Quickly, Jordan Bone has two.
Another good example right there. Darius Perry, he's legally guarding him. Watch him now. He's allowed to move. He's allowed to move sideways and backwards. And, you know, in the old days, the fans would say, if defender was moving. Well, that is legal, and that is a charge, and that is Darius Perry.
Full four, including all of the basketball coming your way on Feast Week. Here's what the bracket looks like at the Advocare Invitational. Penny Hardaway's got it rolling on the recruiting trail. His Memphis Tigers match up with Oklahoma State. LSU's a ranked program. Florida State takes on UAB later tonight.
You know where I'm going to be tomorrow at 1:30?
You're going to be in Orlando. I'm
going to be in Orlando watching I'm not working. That's Dickie V's baby. I'm just going down as a fan, hanging out for a couple days and watching a great tournament. Some really good teams. Florida State, LSU. Both of those teams are loaded.
So we have so much to be thankful for, right?
Yes.
All of us do, especially the fact that we get to cover college basketball. One of the things that makes it easier for us to do is all the help we get from the sports information directors. Well, Tennessee's SID, Tom Setkoviak, is especially thankful here this Thanksgiving week. There's a look at Tom. He's been with Rick Barnes his entire time in Tennessee. Tom just had a liver transplant. He was on the waiting list for 4 years and 2 months, and he got a call the day of SEC Media Day from Vanderbilt University Hospital, and they said, we have your liver. You've got 6 hours to get here if you want to accept it. Called up Coach Barnes. Bag is packed. Off he went. So he and his wife, Brooke, have been through so much, and as soon as he could, he returned to work.
Absolutely. It was great. I was in Knoxville when he was recovering, so I didn't see Tom, but just an amazing story, and it's great to see him here with the Vol basketball team.
And he is so thankful just to be here, to be around his program. The first day he came back, the entire team ran the length of the floor to greet him, to give him hugs, and he's especially thankful for the donor who made the liver possible. Because of the shape of his liver, it had to come from a cadaver, so he understands the sorrow and the loss that one family felt to give him a new lease on life, which is an amazing story.
Yeah, amazing story, perfect for this time of year.
Grant Williams offensive board. Did you see right before that free throw, Grant Williams switched to the other side of the lane? Schofield for three. Chris Mack, Dino Gaudio, this entire Louisville staff preached to their guys that Tennessee will get after it on the offensive glass, even on free throws. And Dino showed them multiple clips of guys like Williams and Schofield crashing the boards on offensive free throws.
Yeah, perfect example. And that's sometimes you have to learn the hard way. The film doesn't lie, but when this guy throws his body around, there's our former colleague, Dino Gaudio, who did such a great job for us before being with a guy that he knew quite well, Chris Mack from Chris's playing days. Both very well connected to the late Skip Prosser, who was just an incredible mentor.
Williams powers in, followed by Yves Pons. You know, see up 5.
Yeah, and that's one of those guys Rick Barnes is hoping for a step up his sophomore year. He's arguably the best athlete on this team. Young man from France.
Long two. And it's ripped down by Lamonte Turner. Turner finds Williams, blocked. What hustle by McMahon, but Williams stuck with it. He's got 17 in the first half. Timeout, Chris Mack in Louisville. Tennessee has opened up a 7-point advantage thanks to the hustle and grit of Grant Williams inside. Chris Mack pointing to his chest, challenging his team to show more heart. They got beat on the boards that time, and this is how the timeout started. Right there, effort.
You got it. That's exactly what he's preaching. And Everybody who knows basketball realizes this will be a transition year at Louisville. It's not the most talented team to ever take the floor, but with a good recruiting class on the way, he's not going to coach these guys anything less than 100%. And it starts with effort. And Tom, we talked at the very top of this show, this game with Tennessee was going to be about toughness. And to this point, Tennessee has shown probably a lot more toughness, especially in the painted area.
6 offensive rebounds for Tennessee, and now they'll pick up full court coming out of the timeout. Ryan McMahon is a great shooter. He's probably the 3rd point guard on this Louisville team, and they got the ball in his hands. Lamonte Turner all over him. Perry trying to shake Pons. And VJ King spins for a bucket.
Tough shot. Good defense by Schofield, but nice move by VJ King. Really good footwork not to travel.
Here's Lamonte Turner for 3. A sidewinder, and it's ripped down by Wara. Coming out of the timeout. Oh, they turn it over again. Lamonte Turner has it all to his lonesome.
Well, when we watched the Georgia Tech game last week, Tennessee had no offensive rhythm, and Rick Barnes told us today, having Turner back gives us a 3rd scorer. You can see the ball movement and the way the ball has gone inside. Good to have that quality backcourt player back.
Inside, off the glass. Agal has 7. Duke just hit a last-second 3 to get within 8 of Gonzaga at the half in Maui as the Zags look to stay undefeated and hand the Blue Devils their first loss. They're at the half there. We'll get you to the studio for a full update in about a minute and a half here. Challenge turnaround jumper from Admiral Schofield. Wara challenge 3. And Lamonte Turner finds it. And we'll get a Tennessee timeout with just under a minute to go. So last year, Lamonte Turner was the SEC co-6th man of the year. Shared it with Jonte Porter of Missouri. And he missed the first 3 games of this season for Tennessee, out with shoulder tendonitis. What kind of difference does he make to this Tennessee team?
He makes a huge difference, and Rick Barnes is very understanding of the shoulder surgery because Rick Barnes suffered from a torn labrum a couple of years ago, and so he's quite aware of the recovery time, but this guy's made his impact early. They were going to win the first 3 games, and Rick Barnes told us that we want to make sure he's 100% because he's so important to us, and although he was a 6th man of the year, he's really a starter. Because he gives you double-figure points, defense, and tonight he's making his presence felt.
Plenty of minutes for Lamonte Turner tonight for Tennessee. On the other side, Louisville has made 7 threes. More than half of their field goal attempts have been from behind the arc. Is that who they want to be, or is that who Tennessee's forcing them?
Well, I think that's who they're going to have to be because, except for Enoch, they really don't have any inside scoring. But we know Wara, McMahon, those guys can really make shots. So, and especially when you run spread pick and roll, if you can get your point guard to play downhill, it's going to open up those 3-point opportunities.
See where the Cards go to here. Touch for Agal. Looking to go to McMahon. And Wara for 3.
One shot time right here for Tennessee, and that's exactly what Rick Barnes said.
About a second difference between the game clock and the shot clock. Turner guarded by Darius Perry. Perry will back off now. Shot clock at 7. Turner trying to break him down into the paint, stripped away. Louisville finds it with 2 and taken back with Pons with 1. No shot for Bowden after the buzzer. 21 of Louisville's 40 points came from behind the arc. Meanwhile, Tennessee with 28 paint points. After the break, we'll get you to the studio. Guys standing by to break down Duke's first half. They trail Gonzaga, and here, number 5 Tennessee with a 5-point lead. The E-Trade halftime report is right after this. Welcome back to the NIT season tip-off, part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. A couple top 5 teams in action tonight. Here in Brooklyn, the Barclays Center, 5th-ranked Tennessee leads Louisville by 5 at the half. We'll see number 2 Kansas match up with Marquette a little bit later. Welcome you back courtside. Tom Hart alongside Fran Fraschilla. I guess we shouldn't be surprised. Louisville's success has come from behind the arc, and Tennessee's has been their power ball in the paint.
Absolutely. We highlighted Grant Williams, the SEC Player of the Year, and he's not disappointed anybody. He is a monster inside, and he's only 6'7", maybe 6'6". But let's take a look. Tennessee going inside early, and it has been the Grant Williams show inside. Good ball movement inside as well, and then you got to protect the paint off the dribble, and something Louisville has not done to this point, yet they're still hanging around. And Chris Mack, Dino Gaudio, and the coaching staff talked to us today about the toughness box. They put this line down in their practice facility, and it's about who dominates this part of the court. So you can bet, Tom, that was addressed in the Cardinal locker room at halftime. So I'm anxious to see what kind of adjustment Louisville makes, especially in terms of guarding Grant Williams.
Grant Williams has 17 in the first half. 14 of those 17 have come in the paint. The other 3 points have come at the free throw line on 3-point play. So Chris Mack looking at Jordan Wara and the guys inside to toughen it up defensively. Meanwhile, 7 makes from behind the arc, 7 inside the arc for Louisville. 21 of their 40 have come from 3-point land.
I always like to see what happens the first 3 minutes of the second half, because both coaches are making adjustments. Both coaches are talking about things like playing tougher, harder. And here's one adjustment. Rick Barnes comes out in a 2-3 zone. First time we've seen it tonight. Louisville probably not expecting that. Let's see what they do.
Haven't seen that very much this season from Tennessee, and it'll be Akoya Gao going to the free throw line.
Let me tell you what Louisville did a great job of right there. They recognized the zone defense immediately. They ran a set play so expertly. They got the ball deep to Akoya, and he got himself to the line. Oftentimes you see a team, right, looking around, what do we run, what is that defense, and they knew exactly what they needed to do and where the ball needed to go.
You mentioned all the stickers on a Gao's suitcase earlier. Here's a guy that has 4 stops at 3 different schools, one of only 2 active players in college basketball that can say that. Mike Gilmore is the other. He went from VCU to Miami to Florida Gulf Coast, back to VCU, and they were here in this building last night.
Sure were, and Mike is like the big brother to those young VCU Rams. So impressive last night. Heartbreaking loss. Nice execution. Admiral Schofield is as good a passer as Rick Barnes has on that team.
Jordan Bowden with his first bucket of the night.
Schofield came in tonight, 15 assists in 3 games.
Yeah, 5 assists a game. My math is really good because I traveled with my abacus.
You must have gone. Did you go to Missouri?
I did, but don't say that during game 2, okay? We don't need the Kansas folks to know that.
You're right about that.
Back into a Agal. Shot clock is at 3. They double with a dig. Agal forces his way up, and Louisville can't find the offensive rebound, so they're getting it where they want it. Admiral Schofield takes it hard. Here comes Louisville the other way. The feed to King. And a reach in by Jordan Bowden. That's his second.
Let's go back and watch Tennessee's ball movement right here. We saw a lot of execution today at practice. Admiral Schofield comes to the top. It's a curl cut, slips to the basket, and he loses his man. Excuse me. Easy basket right there.
So Schofield, you talked about his raw numbers. How about from a rate standpoint? Tennessee is a team, 4th best assist rate in Division I.
I've always felt that statistic is a little bit overrated, because while it measures good passing, there are teams that really score off the dribble and in isolation situations. Sure. So it's not always like the most team-oriented teams with the highest assist rate.
Jordan Bone had it halfway down. Grant Williams gets fouled by Agal. It's the 3rd on Agal. Once again, Grant Williams going to the free throw line and drawing fouls on the better defender of the opposition. But it does speak, if you from Tennessee's perspective, I think it speaks to the way they play unselfish basketball. They've been playing together for 3 years now. After being one of the least experienced teams in college basketball, this same group is now one of the most experienced.
No, you're exactly right. And to your point, this is a group of guys that were not heavily recruited, certainly weren't on those top 25 or top 50 lists. It's kind of teams that Rick Barnes has usually had through the years.
Look at the numbers that Tennessee returns coming into this season. 90% of their points, 94% of their rebounds for a team that tied for the SEC lead with Auburn last year. Auburn got the win head-to-head. Blocked inside. Kyle Alexander with his great reach. Here's Jordan Bone on the run out. And then Bone is fouled by Darius Perry, who thought he clipped it clean.
Really good speed by Bone, and we know how quick Darius Perry's hands are. He felt he got all ball right there.
So it puts Jordan Bone at the free throw line. His brother Josh was on Tennessee's Elite 8 team back in 2010.
I spent some time in Tennessee this fall. Did a clinic in Chattanooga, was in Nashville, Knoxville, and Ensworth. That's one of those private schools, right?
Yeah.
Plays against McCallie and Baylor. And
wait a second.
How am I doing?
You're doing really good, but
yeah.
It's not enough just to be at all the college practices. Now you're doing we know you're an international hoops guru too, and now you're dipping into the prep ranks.
You know.
Where does it end?
It doesn't. It's a lot of useless information, Tom Hart.
So one possession is zone for Tennessee, huh? That was enough. Up and under move by Perry, gives it up. And it results in a foul and a trip to the free throw line coming for VJ King. Kyle Alexander with his second.
It feels like Tennessee has dominated this game, but Louisville is in striking distance, and they have done a really good job on the offensive end tonight. You mentioned the three-point shooting, and Chris Mack's not going to eschew getting the ball in the paint.
Another free throw coming for VJ King, junior from Cleveland. Donald's All-American in high school.
Yeah, and I don't think that helped him coming into Louisville, to be honest with you. And not to say he didn't deserve it, but I felt like there was way too much pressure on him to be a one-and-done type player, and that's not who he is.
Great penetration by Bone. Alexander got his hands on it. And a loose ball, and that's going to be a foul on Dwayne Sutton. Third personal foul on Dwayne Sutton. Well, Chris Mack and his entire coaching staff hitting the recruiting trail hard. Here's where they rank according to the ESPN 106 top 100 commits right now. That's best in the country. That's in front of Kentucky, Arizona, Villanova.
You know, in my mind, none of those kids are one-and-done guys, and I think that's really good because unless one or two of them play really well as freshmen, it's a group that Louisville can grow with over the next 3 or 4 years.
Malik Williams with his third. Agau has 3. Enoch has 3. Sutton has 3. Chris Mack's team in early foul trouble here in the second half. And does it kind of fit the mode of the kind of play that Chris Mack was recruiting at Xavier?
Yes, and I think they're going to be able to recruit a even higher level at Louisville, but to build this first class around guys that can be in the program for a while, I think is a really healthy thing. And just look at the teams that have won national championships lately. Villanova, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Think about Gonzaga. Now they do it with some transfers, international guys, but getting old,
experienced guys.
Yeah, get old, stay old. That's usually the motto for every team that's not named Duke or Kentucky.
Grant Williams matching up with Malik Williams. Alexander on the glass. Here's Schofield for 3. Admiral Schofield with his 4th 3.
Good challenge there defensively, too, by VJ King. Schofield just hit a tough shot.
Schofield had 3 threes on the season coming in. 4 tonight. And an answer from Christian Cunningham. Louisville pulls to within 2 again, but they haven't been able to close the gap. Chris Mack uses a timeout. The Cards staying in this thanks to the long ball.
Carson Cunningham, the Samford transfer, back home in the Commonwealth.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Lowe's. Hurry in today for huge Black Friday savings. And Expedia, everything you need to go.
As you look at Christian Cunningham knocking down a 3, transfer from Samford with the Bulldogs. He was out there just about every game at the point guard position. He's a Kentucky native, halfway to Hazard, then to Lexington, from Georgetown originally, and now back in the Commonwealth.
And how cool is it that a kid is a grad transfer, comes to Louisville this summer, and Christian Cunningham voted team captain before he even played a basketball game. It says a lot about his character and what he means to Louisville. And he'll be long gone by the time this Louisville program is up and running the way they want it, but they'll remember him for being part of that group that started the Chris Mack era.
He had his choice of programs to go to, also considered Arizona State, Oregon State, and Ohio State. Ball kicked out of bounds. We'll be back after this timeout with Tennessee clinging to a 2-point advantage over Louisville. Feast week rolls on. We're at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Meanwhile, warm weather down Paradise Island. Battle for Atlantis, Bad Boy Mowers. Here's what happened today. Oklahoma beat Florida 65-60. Wisconsin blew out Jared Hash and Stanford. Meanwhile, later tonight, Middle Tennessee meets up with Virginia. Here's a look at the preseason media poll. All that young talent for Duke had them number 1. Virginia 2, North Carolina 3. I have a feeling that might be a free-for-all among the top 3.
I think Virginia's the best team in the ACC. I really do. They got 3 guys. They're not going to be the first 3 picks in the NBA draft, but they have 3 guys who all would be in consideration for ACC Player of the Year. You look at that backcourt, and of course, Hunter back now, and adding Braxton Key, and the fact that Virginia, when healthy, has really dominated the regular season of the ACC the last 3 or 4 years.
By the way, Gonzaga with an 11-point lead over Duke right now. Malik Williams just picked up his 4th. And he's got a limp to go with it. And he will shuffle his way back to the Louisville bench.
I will say this about Malik Williams. He's only a sophomore, young man out of Fort Wayne. And I've been impressed tonight with how hard he's played.
Admiral Schofield, another triple chance.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my. That was a hard foul by Lamonte Turner. Left his feet.
Got to look at the speed of Darius Perry right there.
So Darius Perry to the free throw line. Talking about Louisville Live, the kickoff of the season that they had downtown Louisville. He won the dunk contest, and he did it, Fran, wearing a Darrell Griffith jersey. Dr. Dunkenstein.
Smart man. Knows how to get to the hearts of Card fans. Doctors of dunk, and watch his speed. There's just attacks the basket. And Turner can't do anything about it. Think about Darius Perry. He averaged like 3.9 last year. He's up over 14 points a game. And I know it's early and the competition hasn't been great, but lots of improvement. Oh, nice cut. Nice cut. Good screen inside. They got Fulkerson open. And John Fulkerson, the redshirt sophomore, quietly has had a really good night. He is an energy guy.
Fulkerson has had to battle his way through injuries a couple of times as a volunteer. He got to a great start in Maui as a freshman.
Watch this little back screen. Watch Fulkerson now. Ball goes to the wing. Set a back screen on Enoch. Oh, he's done. No help. Screener's man protects the lane right there, Ford. That's what you got to do. So if you're the screener's man, you back off and you make sure you protect the lane. There's a run out.
Bowden with the slam, and Tennessee is up by 4. Louisville pushing back the other way. Wara took a bump from Fulkerson. It's a second on Fulkerson.
That call was made by Jeff Clark, who once upon a time ago was an outstanding player in the city of brotherly love. We were talking to Franny McCaffrey last week, who was known as White Magic. He played a lot of basketball with this guy. One of the top officials in our game. And Jordan Wara, what a summer he had. He played for the Nigerian national team against men. His dad coached the team, and it really helped him. He can really shoot it. Played with Ike Diagu, former NBA star.
Whistle inside. Wara's dad, head coach, Erie Community College up in Buffalo.
He's another guy, I think. When I watched him as a freshman, and he's got to take this the right way, but toughness is something that if he adds to his game will really make him an even better player. He's a tremendous shooter. He's not a super athlete, but he's going to be a really effective player the next 2.5 years at Louisville.
Toughness was something that Chris Mack talked to his team about after their first game of the season. And it's a team that's gotten better each and every game. Yeah, they're undefeated, but as the quality of competition heats up, and they've got some big ones coming up to take on the Kansas Marquette, winner or loser, depending how this one turns out. They've got Michigan State. They go to Indiana. Bowden commits his 3rd foul.
Yep, Seton Hall's on the docket as well. Talking to the AD, Charlie Tyra, today, he explained to Chris Mack that it's a really tough first-year non-conference schedule as well as the ACC schedule. And Chris said to him, yeah, but we got one more opening. Can we get somebody really tough? And Charlie said, you don't understand. We've got Indiana, Kansas, maybe.
Kentucky,
Michigan. Michigan State. And Charlie had to back him off that. He said, look, I know you want to play the best, but we want to go easy here year one.
If I'm not mistaken, 8 games against the preseason AP top 10. That's 3 more than the next closest school.
They probably will end up with the toughest schedule in basketball this year. And you know what's good about that? You go 18-12 with that kind of team. There's a 1-3-1 zone. First different look that they're throwing at Tennessee tonight. If you play that kind of schedule and get a couple quality wins, it's going to help your NCAA chances.
Here's Lamonte Turner over the zone.
Let's keep an eye on that, Tom. They're 0 for 1 versus the zone, and let's see if Chris Mack stays in that defense until they give up a basket.
Enoch working with a turnaround jumper over Alexander, side of the backboard.
They're in it, 1-3-1.
Can Tennessee get it inside against the zone?
Yes, absolutely. And lobs are good here if you have set plays.
Tennessee 0 for 2 against the zone with the fouls. Lamonte Turner pushed off. That's his 3rd.
Well, teams play you zone because they think either they can't guard you inside or they don't fear your outside shooting. So when you play zone offense, the object is, in order to destroy the opponent's morale, get the ball inside versus the zone.
Tennessee only 4 of 13 from behind the arc. Quan 4 goes to the free throw line.
This young man committed to Tennessee.
How about that?
Last spring as a grad transfer from Richmond, and it was announced a couple weeks later he reconsidered his decision and ended up in Louisville.
A 900-point score for the Spiders over 99 games. We are tied at 58.
There's that zone again. Got to get 3 to the baseline versus a 1-3-1. You can't be afraid to throw the lob, and they had it.
Baseline jumper again. This one goes for Alexander. Drive by Wara. Pinned against the glass. They will count it. And Jordan Wara's got a team-high 14 for Louisville.
Let's go back and watch and freeze it right here. Got 3 on the baseline versus 1 man running back there. So there's a lot of coverage. You see Enoch is not sure who to guard. And that leaves Alexander open on that short corner area. And they're staying in that 1-3-1 zone.
Is that where the lob would come from?
The lob would come from the backside. Pons, exactly.
And he is the most athletic guy in this Tennessee team. Here's a skip to him in the corner. A screen from Schofield was a hard one. Pons not known for his shooting, and it shows.
Oh, Chris Mack loved that shot. Oh, what a steal.
Unbelievable leaping steal by Jordan Bone. Schofield shares it. Corner 3, Turner. Got it.
Good swing. Excellent swing. And that's why Schofield averages 5 assists a game. Got it into the middle of the heart of that defense. Skipped it to the other side. Hard to guard 50 feet of court space if you're a defensive team in a zone. This is fun, and Louisville has been impressive.
3-ball fading. Goes! Big triple for Wara. He's got 17. Louisville's tied it again.
No hesitation that time. Catch and shoot.
Chris Mack says watch the lob in the backside with Pons.
Tough
Turner.
shot.
Got it. The shootout continues here at Barclays. It's Tennessee by 3 now.
Can't play defense any better. That was a great closeout without fouling. But that's the impact that Lamonte Turner has playing his first game back.
Wara challenge triple. What do you think of that possession?
You know what? If it goes in, it's great. How's that?
Yeah.
He shot it with confidence. That's what you like. It's about the same shot that Turner hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bad pass inside.
Schofield throws it away. Tennessee and Louisville trading jumpers at this point.
Absolutely. Got ourselves a game. Tennessee number 5 in the country. Turner, he's back from hiatus. And then Jordan Wara, catch and shoot. Way to square up, young man. How about one more? Swing it. Money.
ESPN. Tom, don't you say it, sir.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Here Tennessee leads Louisville 66-63. It might be lost in translation without the music, but that's Bill Murray on the bongo cam during break.
He's got a little connection to the Louisville Cardinal program. I think anybody who follows the Cards know that's his son Luke right there. 2007 graduate of Fairfield University. He's been at places like Rhode Island with Danny Hurley, Xavier with Chris Mack, and outstanding young coach, great recruiter, good basketball coach, and dad's proud. I know that.
Baseline drive. Cunningham reverses it in. Louisville within a point again.
Now, we've been talking about how good Tennessee's offense has been all night, and yet Louisville is just hanging basket for basket with them.
3-ball. Halfway home and out. Both Volunteers go down. Grant Williams and Kyle Alexander knocked heads on the rebound.
Now, this is a new rule this year, and the first thing, let's make sure that these guys are okay. In the past, Tom, on a play like this, the officials would not blow the whistle when Louisville came up with the ball. But in the case where a player may be incapacitated, the officials this year can rule the play dead. And that's exactly what happened. Dwayne Sutton was not happy that that fast break was taken away.
But it's really simple because it becomes a player safety rule. Louisville would have had 5-on-3 on one side, but if there's another turnover, you get 2 guys down on the court if the ball comes back.
Well, no doubt about that, but you also, regardless of the fast break that Louisville may have, you don't want a player down on the floor. It's a player safety issue.
Yeah. Especially those that might need medical attention. So Alexander and Williams, after colliding, this looked really ugly too.
Sure did.
Right side of your screen, right of the lane.
Right there.
Chad Newman is the head athletic trainer for Tennessee, looking at both guys.
Good piece of officiating right there.
So it'll be Louisville basketball in the backcourt.
No timeout there. They just want to make sure both players are okay, and Louisville will keep the ball, and Tennessee will not be charged with a timeout.
Williams got his hands on it. Louisville recovers. They have numbers the other way if they can push. Here's Perry. Transition three. And Louisville still hasn't led since this was a 33-31 Cards game in the first half. Alexander now. He got deep.
Good touch. Really good touch by Kyle Alexander. And notice the way he kept that ball up. He wears heavy gloves. He wore them in practice today because it helps him keep the ball high. And there's a good example right there.
Corner three goes for Louisville, and Dwayne Sutton. We're tied again. Yeah, weighted gloves for Alexander because Rick Barnes was all over him for bringing the ball down and then not finishing his form.
And you'll love this right here if I'm Rick Barnes. I love this right here. Watch how high he gets on that. That's the kind of elevation they're talking about with him. He's not their main scorer, but the senior is a talented player in the post.
Williams back out to Bone for three. Seems every time Tennessee has needed a big shot, they've gotten it.
And I've been impressed with Bone. I mentioned earlier, I think he's one of the best point guards in the SEC. The junior keeps getting better every year. This is a work-oriented team, a gym rat team. They live in that gym.
High off the glass. Follow touch. Agal's got another bucket thanks to the offensive board. Louisville keeps throwing haymakers at Tennessee, and the Volunteers each and every time have answered. Here's Grant Williams. Williams had 17 in the first half. Only one bucket in the second. He'll be going to the free throw line. That is the fourth on Akoy Agal.
Let's go back and watch Grant Williams in the post now. Watch that ball go in there and just watch it freeze. So now he knows where the ball's got to go, right? Right back outside. Inside out, quick touch, no Velcro. Open shot for Bone. Recognizing that double team.
Williams at the free throw line, has two coming his way. His freshman year, he was playing a lot of minutes as a youngster. He finished that year 6th among freshmen in school history in points. Bernard King was number 1. Effective first half. They've locked him down in the first 12 minutes of the second half.
So we used to call guys like we used to call guys like Grant Williams tweeners. No longer. He's just a player.
Tennessee going zone. Cards have hit 11 threes.
Williams got the hand of Wara, but that's not a foul. Hand part of the ball. Good challenge. Ball came up short for that reason.
Wara pushes Williams out. Three from Bone. And a rebound pulled down by Dwayne Sutton. Where is Louisville most effective in the offensive end in the second half? I'm going to give you like 2 minutes to think about it.
That's a tough one. Let me make a couple calls. Can I phone a friend?
You can. Chris Mack's team turns it over. They're down by a deuce. Tom Hart alongside Fran Fraschilla. Fran, you don't have to phone a friend because you texted these two guys. Rob Lanier, assistant for Tennessee on the left. Dino Gaudio, assistant for Louisville on the right. You asked them keys to the game. They both responded with the exact same answer. What was it?
It was toughness. I texted both at about 7 a.m. this morning. I said, give me a key to the game. Within 5 minutes, they each texted me back. Dino Gaudio said, it's a toughness game. And Rob Lanier, same thing. We got to be tougher. And that's been the case. And to your point about Louisville's offense, 45% from 3, 45% from 2, 80% from the line.
And they're doing something that most teams don't do against Tennessee. That score points in bunches. Tennessee has given up on average 53 points a game through their first 3. Enoch commits his 4th personal. That will be an issue for Louisville going forward as Kyle Alexander will try to finish it off from the line.
And we've got 8 minutes to go in this game, and you're talking about a Louisville team that's already got 70 points, so it hasn't been the offensive end. In fact, they've had great balance of scoring inside and out. Half their field goals from 3, half from 2, and 19 free throws.
McMahon running the baseline for Louisville. Back out on the wing. Enoch into the corner. McMahon left his feet, somehow got it off. And the Cards able to track it down with hustle, but Enoch took it to the floor. 12th turnover for Louisville. That's been the one thing that has gotten in the way of their offensive efficiency.
Yep, and you can't fault Enoch for that. That's just great hustle. Because he had possession of the ball and he fell to the floor, theoretically he lifted his pivot foot. But that's what I always call an error of commission. As a coach, I always like that. I could live with a play like that. And over the back, those are the kind of plays you want to see your big guys play with energy.
Off the curl at Schofield from 8 feet.
Wow, great execution. Great set. That time it was Williams for Schofield.
McMahon fired it early. And a foul on Louisville on the rebound, and Chris Mack just got teed up.
I'm not sure what Chris said, but I've seen worse this year. And obviously he said something that got under the skin of the official, because that was a quick whistle in a close game.
Joe Lindsay wants to go back to the monitor. Lamonte Turner is waiting to shoot the free throws after the technical. Turner was an 88% free throw shooter last year. And an air ball.
That's his first free throw attempt of this season. And not an ideal way to get started from the line.
Largest lead of the game for Tennessee coming off of the technical and after the foul on the rebound. It'll be Tennessee basketball.
Let's watch right here. You see the, boy, that's nearly verticality. That's not a foul. That is not a foul. That's verticality, Holmes.
It was the 4th on Sutton. And then Chris Mack.
Now,
quickly.
In the eyes of the official, he got the call right as far as the foul. I hated when an official missed a call and then teed me up for his mistake. And in my opinion right there, if he knew it was a mistake, and I don't think it was a foul, I thought it was a great play, a verticality play, official needs to let the coach go a little bit. Now, he might have used a magic word, but.
And then Louisville turns it over, and the Tennessee fans feeling this one go their way. They're up by 10 with possession with 6.5 to go. It's a 9-0 Volunteers run. Frustrating sequence for Chris Mack in Louisville. Catch SportsCenter later tonight on ESPN after Thunder Warriors with Bucci and Anderson. They'll have reaction from LeBron after his return to the land, and Zion Williamson's top plays from the Maui Classic. Plus Andrew Luck's amazing comeback season. SportsCenter after college football on ESPN and the ESPN app. Duke down 6 with about 5.5 to go down in Maui. I believe their weather is a little bit nicer than ours. It will be the coldest Thanksgiving in New York since 1910.
Wow.
And you're running off to Orlando.
I'm going to Orlando. But if you go to the Macy's Day Parade tomorrow, you'll still have a blast. Bundle up.
Yeah, hope you have thick socks.
Yep. And a lot of hot chocolate.
Yep, that'll help. Here's a look at what we have going on here at Barclays, including Kansas coming up next against Marquette. Chris Mack just shaking his head. It's a bad call. Marquette and Kansas will tip off about 20 minutes after we finish here. Then Championship Friday, championship game at 9 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2.
Well, through no fault of their own, Kansas was bumped from #1 to #2 after champions. And it was based on the impact of that Duke win over Kentucky. And good chance if Duke drops this game to Gonzaga, Kansas has a chance to be back to #1.
Lamonte Turner for 3.
And he's back.
Yes.
He is back. And now you know why Rick Barnes not only needed him back in the lineup, but rested him in those first 3 games that were all games that the Vols were heavily favored in.
McMahon was challenged on his 3. 6 minutes to go and Tennessee in control. Now, wait a second, though. You say that Kansas could move back up to #1.
Only if they win this tournament.
Yeah, if they win. But if Gonzaga wins Maui, there's going to be a lot of folks voting Gonzaga #1 if they're able to take down Duke.
And the best team in the country might be Virginia.
What a start to the season. Here's King, and he threw it away. Another Louisville turnover.
Well, this is as good a ball movement as I've seen from Tennessee tonight. They have been absolutely terrific at the way this ball has hummed. And you know what's great about the way they move the ball? Oftentimes, the catalyst is Schofield or Williams, and those 2 guys are thought of as brute forces, but both are skilled players.
14 Louisville turnovers, Fran. Tennessee has scored 21 points off those turnovers.
I'm going to have to think about what you said, because there's no question that Gonzaga is going to get a lot of credit for this win.
That's why I like working with you. Yeah. Here's Schofield inside. He's got 18.
Yeah, and how about Tennessee? Rick Barnes' teams have always been tough, gritty, defense-oriented, but they've got scoring in this starting lineup, that's for sure.
I was talking to Bill Self this afternoon at their practice over at St. Francis, and talking about the field and who they might match up with. He said, I told our coaches I'd love for us to play Tennessee, because that, just like the 2 assistants texted you, that's a toughness game, and it's a great barometer to see where our program is from a toughness perspective.
Without a question, and Bill Self has never shied away from playing those kind of games in the preseason.
Schofield went down, and he's trying to rub out a cramp, it looks like. Tennessee has made 8 of its last 10 shots.
Now, if you look at the Kansas non-conference schedule, they not only play in this tournament and have already obviously played Michigan State, but the teams that they've played, like Louisiana Lafayette and Wofford, and certainly Villanova, Arizona State, they've got to go to a place that those guys beat them at home. Those are teams that are going to be highly thought of in their conferences, and certainly will help their net. Is that it?
Yeah,
the net, right?
Net. We're going to teach you guys all basketball season what the net is. Just forget about the RPI. We've got new initials. It actually spells out a word, and we got all season to dive into.
We do. It's too early for the net.
Too early.
Too early. It's like these preseason polls, which mean absolutely nothing.
Well, they sell magazines, right?
They do. They do. I buy them.
Middle Tennessee and Virginia, 9:30 tonight on ESPN2. As soon as we finish with Kansas and Marquette.
And I'll tell you this, if Tennessee were to beat the winner of Marquette and Kansas, they would certainly
be in consideration.
Absolutely.
Right? Grant Williams commits his 2nd personal foul. Steve Wojciechowski, the head coach at Marquette, he had some success in Maui back in the day. He was the most outstanding player of the tournament, and he did it with his defense. He shut down Mike Bibby in the title game.
I remember that. Yep, and he, of course, he was the National Defensive Player of the Year his senior year.
But to this point, his team doesn't play defense with the same effectiveness that he did as a player.
They didn't last year. And talking to him today at practice has certainly been a point of emphasis throughout the summer and fall. We're going to get a chance to see them test that defense in a in just a short while here.
It's amazing what you work at and what you improve on, right? I asked Rick Barnes, hey, what makes you guys so good defensively? And he looked at me with a Hickory, North Carolina draw and goes, well, we practice it. Grant Williams turns it over inside. They work really hard at being a great defensive team. Rohra reverses, gets it, and a chance for a three-point play. 19 for Jordan Rohra. Fourth personal foul on Lamonte Turner. Chilly here in New York, red hot in Maui, including those Blue Devils. Are they on the comeback trail? We'll update you from the studio right after this.
I'm Hart and Fran Fraschilla.
All right, Adnan, thanks. An amazing game down in Maui here in Brooklyn. Tennessee pulling away from Louisville, up by 12 right now. If folks did not know the name Rui Hachimura, they will learn it very, very soon. This game has been a thriller. 7 ties, 11 lead changes. Rohra has a double-double, 19 and 10. Tennessee's balance is showing 5 players with 11 or more.
One of the things that Jordan Rohra and Rui Hachimura have in common is they each played for their country's national teams in the qualification for the FIBA World Cup next summer. Nigeria, I believe, has already qualified, and Japan should qualify. They really turned it on when Rui played for them. And when I was out at Zag's practice for 2 or 3 days in October, Mark Few told me that they were thrilled with the progress he made because he was a go-to guy for the Japanese national team.
Much more aggressive than he is when he first showed up at campus.
Oh, first year was about learning the language. Forget learning basketball. Year 2 last year was about basketball. This year it's about becoming a star.
Louisville's bench, you saw the graphic. They've been great all season. They averaged 42 points a game from their bench and had a school record 63 from the bench in the game against Southern. Tennessee working clock. Shot clock at 5. Schofield.
He traveled.
Yeah, he did.
He got Roy with an extra step right there. Chris Mack yelled it out.
Louisville trying to close the gap, down 11 with 3 minutes to go. To the high post, Sutton. And he chased it down but committed a foul. And that's going to be it for Dwayne Sutton.
The Louisville native who transferred from UNC Asheville has worked his way into the starting lineup because of that toughness we talked about. And he gave Chris Mack good effort tonight, 5 fouls. And again, part of that whole process of building a culture of toughness that Chris Mack developed at Xavier.
12 points, 5 boards for Sutton.
And as we know, it wasn't just Chris Mack at Xavier. It was Sean Miller, and it was Thad Matta, and it was Skip Prosser and Pete Gillen. And it's a great program they've had, and Chris Mack certainly left his mark on that program.
All-time winningest coach, past Gillen. Grant Williams goes 2 for 2 from the line. He's got 22.
I think Grant Williams set the tone tonight early.
Yes, 17 in the first half.
Yep, he sure did. Little inside action. That's how you score against the zone. And there's where you don't need to shoot a jump shot. If you can get the ball inside like that easily, that's good offensive basketball versus the zone.
Tennessee solves the Louisville pressure. Don't forget Marquette and second-ranked Kansas. We'll follow this one about 20 minutes after we finish here, right here on ESPN2. LeGerald Vick has been red hot for Kansas over the last 2 games. Shot clock winding down. Williams, a blind shot off the window.
I have no idea how he made that shot. He looked like a contortionist at a carnival.
He does everything. Plays the piano, changes tires, hits blind shots. Darius Perry with 8 now.
One of my favorite Spinner songs, Rubber Band Man.
Oh, yeah.
Watch this. Watch him turn. I mean, that's ridiculous how he did that.
Bone went behind the back and lost it. And timeout taken by Grant Williams. He is smart.
That was a heady play.
11-point lead for Tennessee with 1:47 to go here. Shortly after we're finished, Kansas and Marquette will take the floor. The Jayhawks on another Big 12 title last year. Went back to the Final Four, and Bill Self has shuffled things around. They've got some great returners, Azubuike and Vic, and they've complimented those guys with transfers.
Well, many of us who watched Kansas last year thought that, there you see the freshman, that, and this came from some inside the Kansas basketball program, that might have been one of Bill Self's least talented Kansas teams a year ago. And of course, they shot it so well. They played the small ball and got to the Final Four, knocking off Duke. This team reminds me of a vintage Kansas team. Size inside. I can almost guarantee you Doak Azubuike is going to get that ball early and often. They've got precocious guard play. And then how about with Gerald Vick? Tom, he didn't score in the first game.
Yeah.
And then what?
And then career highs each of the next two, including 8 for 8. A school record for threes without a miss against Vermont. Then he had 33 against Louisville. He hit 7 threes in that game.
Remember that Vermont game? Because I don't think he hit the rim on any of those threes that night.
And he could have had the NCAA record if his shoes were like a half size smaller, because 2 of his twos were with the toes on the line. Admiral Schofield's got 20. He is combined with Grant Williams, who has 24. And both of those guys tonight passed the career 1,000-point mark in the same game. Turnaround for Jordan Wara.
He's been impressive tonight. He's only a sophomore. There's some good pieces here to go along with that top recruiting class.
What does tonight's game show you about how Louisville will match up with folks in the ACC with this kind of effort?
They're going to have to make shots from behind the arc. I didn't see any inside offense tonight other than some of those tricky plays that Chris Mack ran. Their defense obviously has to improve. And listen, at home they're going to be tough. They're going to win some games they're not supposed to. But the kind of schedule they're playing is going to be a bear, and they have to show some quick improvement, I think, on the defensive end. And they'll get that chance on Friday night.
Thanksgiving tomorrow for these teams with a day off, and then next stop in the bracket, Marquette or Kansas. McMahon off the mark. Under a minute to go in Maui. Gonzaga clinging to a 2-point lead against #1 Duke. That's over on ESPN. Here, Tennessee putting the finishing touches on Louisville. Volunteers are going to go to 4-0. They'll await the winner of Marquette and Kansas. And Rick Barnes is going to pass John Wooden with his 665th career victory tonight. And he got help from the 2 bigs, Admiral Schofield and Grant Williams.
And his feet were not on the line. Schofield also did it in the paint. And, of course, this guy just dominant. There's a reason he was the SEC Player of the Year. And Bernard King won it 3 times. Grant Williams has got 1, and who knows, maybe he's heading to a 2nd. He certainly looked like a strong contender tonight for another run at that SEC Player of the Year.
Corliss Williamson of Arkansas was the last to win it back-to-back years. Ernie and Bernie actually shared it one year, 1977.
That's amazing. Ernie Grunfeld from Forest Hills High School. And, of course, Fort Hamilton. That was the home of Bernard King, and later his brother Albert, who was the #1 high school player in the country the year that another guy came out of high school from East Lansing, Michigan. Irvin Magic Johnson.
Rora's got a career high 23. It won't be enough for Louisville.
Well, his dad taught him how to shoot the ball because he's been electric from behind the arc.
92-81 is the final score here in game #1 of the NIT season tip-off. Kansas and Marquette will get going in about 20 minutes from now. So 5th-ranked Tennessee stays undefeated. They do it by shooting 54% from the floor and dominating inside with 44 of their 92 coming in the paint. A 14-0 Tennessee run in the second half helps the Volunteers pull away. Coming up next, College Basketball Scoreboard Live. Join us about 20 minutes for Marquette taking on Kansas. Be back in Brooklyn shortly. Now back to the studio.